Good evening and welcome to Cavan TV News and Views. Well, here I am this evening in the Farnham Arms Hotel, Cavan Town. It's the launch of a book, A Legacy of Memories. Well, it all came about because of a Facebook page, Cavan Old Irish Photographs on Facebook. And to tell me all about that is no stranger to Cavan TV. We've spoken before. Melanie Love, your very popular page, Melanie. It is so popular, Cavan Old Irish Photos.
Yes, we're here tonight to celebrate Kevin's book launch, and his stories would have been started probably 3 years ago with the page, and everybody has been following it. And he's after launching a book that's 400 pages long, and there's at least 100 photographs, and he's got in it stories of growing up in Cavan, his stories of with his family and going to school and the shops around Cavan town, so everybody around Cavan would be able to, understand with their own family and upbringing in Cavan.
So just to let folk out there know how it came about, Old Cavan Irish Photographs, you started the page, you posted a few photographs from Cavan, people got interested, they were interested in the history and the names and the times and the dates and everything behind the photograph. Then some people became, regular contributors.
Definitely.
And Kevin was one of those. And then if a photograph was put up without any information and it was pertaining to Cavan Town, he could fill everybody in. And his wonderful stories as well. As you said, they're in the book, A Legacy of Memories.
Yes.
But he posted the stories up on the page under the pictures, and my goodness, the reactions.
Yeah, there was at least 1,000 comments and likes of people from all over the world where they could say that, I remember that going to that school and that shop around Cavan Town, because his stories transported you back in time, so you were able to see what he was talking about, going to dance halls, and you knew what your parents, how they met. They went to a hall with no electricity and they came home on the bar of the bicycle. This is how they met back in the day when there was no telephones to be able to meet one another.
He gave us an insight of life that is not depicted or, collected like nowadays life. Yeah. Everything's digital. We have a history of everything on digital. But years ago, it's from stories, and that's how we know about these things.
Yeah.
We know about the stories of being so poor when they were young, but they were happy.
Yes, this is it. People feel that it was a happier time, because people called round, they had a céilí. Nowadays people don't know their neighbours. There's more technology now, but you actually know fewer people.
It's less friendly.
Yes, this is it.
And that was the days when it took a village to rear a child. And of course, Cavan Town is not a huge town. I can't say, put a figure on how many people live around the town, but it was a neat town, planned town, and a close-knit town.
Yeah.
And you can see that in the stories.
Definitely, yeah. Kevin can give you a real insight into the history of Cavan. Everybody's proud of their Irish ancestry, and you can really get a feeling for that through Kevin's story.
So Kevin is launching his book tonight here in the Farnham, as I've said, and just as we're speaking, people are piling in to have a word with Kevin, a wonderful man, born back in 1936, is 87 years of age and can remember every story crisp and clear, and we'll talk to him later. Thanks for talking to us once again, Melanie, on Cavan TV, and your page is going from strength to strength, and I do think there'll be more books.
I definitely think
maybe one from yourself.
In the future, I think so. With 30,000 members, a book launch would be good for the club as well, yeah.
It's a great source. Thank you very much, Melanie.
No
Thank
problem.
you.
And we're all delighted to be here tonight. So it's really exciting for us as a family. So I have a few words prepared. So, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, people of Cavan, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to tonight's launch of the new book, A Legacy of Memories, by Cavan's own Kevin McDermott. Or as I prefer to call him, Dad. And what a true labour of love it has been for Dad. Yeah. I take back all the help with the book now. What a true labour of love it has been for Dad, a 3-year project. of many hours spent late into the evening carefully retelling the stories of what is now a bygone era. Stories that are rooted in Cavan, but we are sure will resonate with countless others across Ireland. Dad has always been extremely and vocally proud of being a Cavan man. And although after leaving in 1956 to spend many years in London and subsequently our home in Wexford, both my brother James and I were never left in any doubt of our pedigree, that we were the sons of the son of Hoppinjebby from Owen Road Terrace. To quote the late American author Doug Larson, nostalgia is a file that removes the rough edges from the good old days. And this book, despite its fondness for that time, Dad does write honestly about those rough edges and what Ireland really looked like for someone born in 1930s Cavan. But we can be nostalgic about those characters from that time. We spent some time earlier with Jonathan Smith of Cavan Library, just earlier today, and one thing he said stayed with me. He said that there are many local history books about buildings and places and not enough about people. And this book is about people. So, thank you. So, before we get to lift off and officially launch the book, I'd like to make mention of some people who without them tonight would not be possible. Firstly, to Michael here at the Farnham, alongside Catherine, who are hosting us so wonderfully this evening. To Desi Ronan and Eddie and Dag. That correct? Yeah. Yeah, perfect, thank you. For the music, and they will keep us entertained after we finish the evening here.
Till 6 in the morning.
6 in the morning. Bar at 2, is it? Right. So, yeah, keep us entertained. So, Dad, and actually I wanted to mention today that Dad actually joined Desi this afternoon in entertaining the residents of Castle Manor Nursing Home.
He was, can I just add to that, yeah? He tore the house down. He was absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
And can I say, Desi, that you are the type of person every community is lucky to have. So thanks so much for your support. We'd like to make mention of Martin Donoghue, who was a great advocate for not only Dad, but everyone involved in the arts and culture sector of Cavan. He's currently on the radio at the moment and hopes to be here, so we hope to see him later. I'd like to make mention of Anne McCabe. She was our boots on the ground in Cavan Town. She helped so much with organising and put us in contact with the right people. She has been a great supporter of Dad and has now become a dear friend of our family, so thank you, Anne. I'd like to make mention, I don't know where he is, but Martin Kelly, who is the current custodian of number 8 Owen Road Terrace, who always welcomes Dad back home on each visit, even if only for Dad to point out all the changes to the house since his day. My brother James and my wife Jessica, over to the right there, we make a great team. What is important to Dad, oh yeah, applause. I didn't know where to put applause breaks in this meeting. What's important to Dad is important to us. And we are immensely proud of Dad and his continuous contribution to cultural history. And we're just all delighted to support you here tonight, Dad. We are a great team of 4, who were once a great team of 5. And we think tonight of our late mother, Noreen. She was Dad's greatest supporter, sounding board, and advisor. The book is dedicated to her, and although it always rained in Cavan whenever she visited, we know she would have loved being with us here this evening. So finally, let's get going with the official launch. And to perform the official launch first, we welcome Melanie Love. She's the administrator of Cavan Old Irish Photos Facebook group. And that is the group from which Dad's contributions, the idea of this book was born. So welcome, Melanie.
Hello everyone, it's great to see everybody here tonight to support Cavan with his book. I set up Cavan Old Irish Photos around 3 years ago, and from the very beginning Cavan has been there sharing his stories with everybody, and like myself we can really see a connection with our own family through his stories. Like there recently he was talking about going to the dance halls and it was a tin roof and there was no electricity and they used tilly lamps for the lighting, and he had to use a car battery to power the amp for the music. and they'd be given out when the car battery would start to die. But this was how our ancestors met. Like even my grandparents, they met in an old tin hall at New Inns, and Grandad brought my grandmother home on the crossbar of the High Nelly bike. A lot of us wouldn't be here today only for those dance halls. No, but it's fantastic to see everybody here, and the book Cavan has written, he's a man of his word. He said that he was going to write a book from the beginning, and it's great to see a 400-page book with 100 photographs, you know, and it's reasonably priced, and it's fantastic to see, you know, everybody will be buying these for Christmas. I know a couple of people are buying 4 of them each, you know, to give for Christmas presents, but it's definitely a great read to see the history through Cavan of growing up. So I don't think there's much more for me to say, but I'll hand it over to the man himself, Cavan. Give him a round of applause.
I just want to say, firstly, we know Dad is not a man of few words, as his 400-page book would attest to. However, we will allow him to say a few words, so please welcome the author of A Legacy of Memories, our dad, Cavan McDermott.
I'd like to start. I want you all to join in with the hymn, Love Divine, Love, excelling page 24 in your books. Anyway, hello Cavan. It's one of your sons, the one you run over, returned. I can't believe I'm standing here in the Farnham Hotel launching my own book when I think that 80 years ago I walked up that alleyway outside there to the Scout Den, which was up there at the time. It was up over a tailor shop, and I joined the Cubs. And little did I know that time that 80 years hence I'd be standing here launching a book. The book is a series of memories, and I put them in little stories. Now, some of you people who read my other stuff may have seen some of this before, but I extended it and worked on it into a story. And it worked out 49 memories. I have more memories than that, but I want to forget some of them. I left here in 1955, and because I couldn't get employment, I only got part-time employment. And I remember that my last job was in the Cavan Mineral Waters, and poor Desi passed away there recently, which is a shame because he's the only member who remembers me there. And his father was the governor there. We called him the big fella. And when I was leaving, my mother said, you should try and get a reference from Johnny Coulter. So I went over to Johnny and I said, Mr. Coulter, we're going to England. I said, my mother says, could you give me a reference? He said, a reference? I said, yeah. He said, I'll give you a reference. You're a good worker, but you're fucking awkward. Because every time I walked past that man carrying a crate of bottles, the arse fell out of it. And it wasn't my fault that they were badly repaired. But that's the sort of thing, and I went away then. Going back on the book, I started putting all these things together, and I learned back in the 1960s, I learned to touch type, taught myself a course, and I became quite good on the keyboard. And then when word processors come in, it was an ideal opportunity for somebody like me to have word processors and to use them to the best of my ability. And I started putting them in order, and most of the memories were by word of mouth from my parents. I asked my mother about this, I asked my mother about that, I asked my father about that. My father went away in 1943 to England, to work in England. He was a crippled man. He broke his ankle and they took a bit of it out, or a bit of his heel out, and he had to walk on a built-up boot ever since, so he could only do menial tasks. He was an educated man. He was a councillor here in Cavan, but when the treaty came about, he was then the intelligence officer for the IRA during the Civil War, and he disagreed with the treaty, and he disagreed so much in fact that he resigned from the council. stupid thing to do. A man told me in later years, he said, your father was a great man with a pen, he said, but he was his own worst enemy. And I could see what he meant, because my father was a very pedantic man. He made up his mind and there was no change in it. But he had to go off to England, and the money came back in a registered letter. And sometimes that registered letter was delayed, and there'd be no money. There was just no money in the house. I asked mother for fourpence for the pictures, the fourpenny rush. And she said, give me my purse over there. She said, if you can find fourpence in there, you can have it. There was tuppence. And we didn't have a bit to eat at times. And there's a story in there called Kindness Personified, where I mention certain people who were very kind to me when I was growing up. I'd bring up the skins to Mrs. Fay for her ducks, and she gave me tuppence. Great. Mrs. Simpson was a dog, she was great. All women like that. John Donohoe, the scoutmaster, he paid my way to the scout camp. I'd never made it at the time, and we couldn't afford that sort of thing. So there's tissues at the back of the book if you want to use them. But I hope I made a good job of it. I think I have. There are certain things. Ronan and I, we did everything to this book but printed. We designed it. We put it together with my stories. We made sure the font was good enough. The font is the writing, and it was good enough that you could read it. Big. Well, you could look at it and you can read it. You didn't have to get a magnifying glass to see what it was all about. So that worked well. And our photographs, I had photographs over the years collected, and we use every story has a photograph attached at the end appertaining to that particular story. So I think I did a good job. I think we did a good job. And at the end then, I wrote a bit of poetry. And I put 16 of my poems in at the end in the article called Cavan's Poetry Corner. And I suppose there was some very successful poems that I wrote. And the last one there was Cavan, my native Cavan town, which I'm going to finish this speech here by reciting that for you. I know it off by heart, but I'm going to have a look sometimes because I forget. I haven't done it for a long time. And it's great because I can't even find the bloody thing. Anyway, at the back, there's the beginning of the book's the prologue, where I tell you all about myself. And at the end is the epilogue, where I tell you what happened to me when I left. About being a firefighter. I joined, 1 minute I was washing bottles in Cavan Mineral Waters, and next minute I'm fighting fires in London, which was my career. And that gave me a chance to see how life was raw out there. Now, I'll find my native Cavan town, and what I want you to do, when I finish reading it, I want you to enjoy the rest of the evening. Those of you who haven't signed, I'll sign your books for you. The rest of you, I'd love to buy you all a drink. But being a Cavan man, I don't want to break the habit of a lifetime. You can find it. Ronan, where did we do it?
Did we include it? I'm sure we did.
Yeah, I think it was the first one to put in. Right. The old house, maybe a little bit here. Yeah. I'm looking for atmosphere, you see. Now, here we go. Not yet. Oh, I love that poem. That's one right the way I do it. Yeah. Oh, God, he wrote an awful pile of stuff here. Right. There we go. Yeah, right. I know it basically, but it's just that I'm going to use a prompt here or there. My native Cavan town, I wrote this in the year 2000, and I wrote it because when I went to Drumcraft School from Monroe Terrace, 3 miles, I used to cross the Gallis Hill, and I used to stand and look at the brothers' school, envious that I wasn't going to the brothers' school. All my friends went there, all the people in the Scouts I was with went to there, but I walked to the Drumcraft School, an old whitewash building with no running water, no electricity, and the toilets were a hole over a ditch outside. But there are people of a certain vintage would remember that sort of thing. But and then I went to the brothers. But I went to, and this, I was standing on, about in the year 2000 on Gallis Hill reminiscing, And I thought, I'm going to write a poem about this. And this is the poem I wrote, My Native Cavan Town. I stood upon the gallows hill and gazed down at the town. My mind went back some 80 years to when I was around my place of birth, so nobly set, so peaceful and serene. And I thought of all the changes that those narrow streets had seen. I see again that fine cathedral, now weathered grey and drab, whose golden cross I often saw from the mile bush near Drumcrab. The lofty Church of Ireland, standing stately in its shadow, whose clock chimed out the daily hour across a Cady meadow. Bridge Street and the Scout Inn, where with dues and book of deeds we listened to the Master, who took care of all our needs. And honest John, he did his best our troubles to defuse, a saintly man who worked all week in Brady's selling shoes. Town Hall Street and the Magnet, where silver screens did flicker with images of Jean and Roy and a trusty steed named Trigger. Outside those doors we'd weekly queue, we'd jostle, shove and push to try and hold our places in that damn full penny rush. The brother school were boys, the brother school where tears were shed and boys were taught to read and learn about the many things that one day we would need, where teachers dressed in cassocks black and brother Mark was king, and leather straps that rend the air and caused our hands to sting. And then St. Patrick's College, where the well-off boys did go, not for me, an ordinary lad who lived up in own row. The tech for me, to learn to work with metal and with wood. My mother said, in later life those skills will do you good. A stone of spuds from Harry's, the coal from Fagan's yard, some paint and paper from the stores, and buyers for the lard. A piece of shin from Hickey's, a vest from Morris Brady's, a part-worn suit from Anthony Farrell's, and Vera's for the ladies. 10 apples for a penny from Joey's in the acre. An ice cream from Cape Bannon's and Foster's for the paper. The smell of sweets in Maggie's shop and the empty chocolate boxes. A pound of ham from Barney O's, a pair of boots from Fox's. The convent and its early mass, then fishing out at Ran. The Sunday march to Breffni Park with the Cavan Labour Band. Some oranges from McCaffrey's, a half-time treat for all. Then watch our local heroes play a team from Donegal. Diving from the springboard that stood at Swelling Lake. Sitting in the centre, drinking tea and eating cake. And then before the Cayley, go with Tully for a jar. Or take a spin to somewhere else in Rafter's hired car. The town hall where we often danced to Eugene Eddy's band. With polished shoes and brill-creamed hair, we thought ourselves so grand. 'Twas there we met the local girls and some from Ballinya, and swung our way through jigs and reels with some as old as Ma. The lovely old pavilion where Dixon's band held sway, and thrilled the dancers gathered there with music of the day. A place where hearts were broken, or sometimes joined forever, where lovers kissed on the road to Killinebber. Both Tone Street and the barracks, where I joined the FCA. The early trip to Gormanstown, 2 weeks on army pay. The church parades on field days, and the shooting on the ranges, with the dinner first in Donahoe's, all free by prior arrangement. The mineral waters where I walked with Benny, Ba and Tommy. The endless trips around the town delivering from a lorry. And then determination at the end of every season for a last in, first out. A lack of work was usually the reason. I hear again the laughter from those happy teenage years, the echoes of the songs and tunes still echo in the air. I think of all the dance halls from Bombay to Lavy Strand, where with friends I helped make music in a local pickup band. I remember all the tears I shed that day at Cavan station, when I joined the 50s exodus, the shedding of a nation. I went to work on foreign shores to earn an honest pound, and I said farewell to my boyhood friends. And my native Cavan town. And now I take my final look at that old familiar scene. With tear-dimmed eyes, I turn away and leave that old fair green. A stranger in my native town, no reason now to tarry, for my only folk are all at rest in the graves in Killygarry. Thank you.
So here we are, still in the Farnham at the wonderful book launch of Cavan McDermott's book. What a wonderful man. And I'm going to speak to his son now, Ronan, who helped him with the book. 3 years in the making, Ronan. Good evening, Ronan. Before we start, what a wonderful evening.
Thanks so much, Anya. Yeah, we're absolutely delighted with the entire atmosphere, with those who have come out. I hear it's a bad evening outside as well.
Horrible
so
evening,
for people to come
to
out
be
in the rain,
indoors, yeah,
in Cavan
absolutely.
especially, where I know we're used to rain, we're absolutely delighted.
And you came all the way from Wexford.
We did indeed, yes. So Dad now resides in Wexford, so myself and my brother have been reared in Wexford. So, and in fairness, we don't get the Cavan enough, if you know what I mean. But we were here in July, and then when we were working on the book, we said, well, look, we have to do a Cavan launch, obviously.
Yeah.
So then we planned it for here. But no, a lot of work went into it over the last 3 years.
So 3 years in the book, and as you said, you've done everything in the book yourself, bar printed.
That's it.
So tell me about that.
Yeah, so that's...
there's what, 400 pages, is that right?
Yeah, just under 400
and 100
pages.
photographs.
Exactly, and we must have read that 10 times now. So I know an awful lot of work, but in fairness, it's such a labour of love for Dad. He really wanted to get it right. I have a background in computers, which is always handy for him. So in fairness to Dad, he typed it all out, and then we started at the first page and we edited it as we went, and we reread it and we read it again, because Dad particularly, you know, he's a bit of a perfectionist, I suppose. Like, he's a brilliant musician, brilliant for writing, you know, so we didn't want to create a book that had an obvious mistake in it, I suppose, you know. So we read and read and read, and we had many, many late nights now of deadlines. So we did have a deadline of, we had to get it launched today on the 18th, so we were working to that over the last, and really it ramped up in August. So since August now, we've been a couple of nights a week getting it right.
Okay.
And then, as you know, well, if people have done books before, you make one change on page 14 and page 64 is now out. So we had to keep going through. And as I said, he could have done 100 pages, but no, he wanted the 380. So we got all the way through, and no, he's absolutely delighted.
You've just put me off writing a book. But that's fantastic work, and I just had a little look this evening. I will get the book, and folks out there, Kevin's book will be available in Candlelight Bookstore in Main Street, Cavan. Please go along. A wonderful Christmas present, as Melanie said. But like, some of the stories are touching. He really loved Ono Terrace.
Oh.
It was the shaping and making of many people in Cavan Town. And one of the most fantastic stories is, I don't know where he said he was in the book, I just glanced at briefly there before we came on tonight, and he was in New York, or was it in Killarney, and he met somebody who was ready to talk about the half acre in
Yes.
Cavan, and he said, "No, do you know it?" No, I was never there. I was never in Cavan, but I heard about
Yeah,
it.
exactly, that's it. And in fairness to Dad, so proud of his roots from the half acre. And at that time as well, the half acre had a little bit of a name for itself. In the case of the type of people who lived there, obviously there was a lot of poverty. As Dad used to say, he was from the wrong side of the tracks sometimes, you know. So especially when he met people from the half acre, that story is specifically about the presumption that people have of that place, and what he was doing was he was writing about the people who were there and the kindness in the community. And even now, as I reference number 8 on Road Terrace, we still go and visit. Martin and his family allow us in, and we sit where Dad used to sit 87 years ago.
But
So
you
it's
do know
magic.
that, you know, families reared each other in those
Oh,
days.
absolutely.
You know, what one house couldn't do for another one, another did for other. Great times.
Yes, absolutely.
Your dad's music, like, I have the list of all his jobs in his life, but I'll speak to him about that
Yes.
later. His music, and we had him on Cavan TV about a couple of years
Yeah.
ago, and his fingers flew over that accordion.
Oh, absolutely.
He's amazing.
Yeah, and he's still going strong on the accordion, I'll tell you now.
Do any of your sons play music?
So I play the drums, and
Good.
my brother sings. So my
Yeah.
brother sings, and he's in musicals, and then I back many bands, and we've had a gospel choir before, myself
Great stuff.
and my wife run it. So music is absolutely in the blood. You
right.
could not be a son of Cavan McDermott and not
And
have
not
picked
do
up
music.
something.
Well done.
Absolutely not.
So to do his book, he made a sacrifice to do his book because he paid for it himself.
He did indeed, yes, yeah. All, as we said, all self-published, all paid for, and the thing he's putting it on sale for €20. A lot of people said put it for 25, put it for 30. He says no, it's a €20. He said I just want to cover the cost of the book,
Yeah.
and that's which is it's something that when even I said it, it just shows you this is a social history that he wants to pass on. And and in fairness to him, he was going to put the money towards a car, and he said I won't buy the car.
Yeah.
He said I'll actually write this book.
But I think watching him tonight and seeing him doing his little speech there and seeing him get emotional as well. And tonight is his night. It's a big night, and I think he's having a ball.
Oh, he's having a great time.
I think he's got more back than the worth of the book tonight.
Well, absolutely, Anya. And even as I say, he's 87, but if you met him, you'd think he's
He's
67.
amazing. He's amazing.
Unbelievable, and he's always had that energy, and he's never lost a step. And he thinks he can do a lot more than even he can. I was desperately trying
I'd
to.
say you have a hard job keeping an eye on him.
I was desperately trying to get him to take a break today. We started at 10 a.m. in the library, then we had an interview at 1 o'clock, and then in fairness, he went over to Castle Manor nursing home and he played for 2 hours over there. We barely got dinner, and we were back here at 6:30. He was dying to get over here, and he's still over there 3-4 hours later talking to people. So that's what it's all about for him.
Well, that's it, Ronan. And what he's done is very special, and it's not done enough from times gone by, because nowadays everything we do is digital. It's there.
Yes.
It's in the clouds. It's saved. It's in the clouds. Every movement of our lives
every
is there.
photograph, everything.
But stories from years gone by is amazing, and people don't
absolutely.
realise
That's
it.
it.
And it's wonderful to see it. And I think it's a social history of Cavan
That's what
Town.
it is. And the fact that, as he says, in a lot of the photographs in the book, he is the last surviving member, because as he's 87, born in 1936, a lot of the characters, he's outlived them all, if you know what I mean. And to be still going at 87 and to bring out a book at 87 is absolutely brilliant.
Well done, Ronan. Thank you
so much,
for
Anya.
talking to us
Thank
on
you.
Cavan TV. And I hope somehow or another I'm going to catch up with Kevin myself, because he is the man of the
If you
moment.
can catch up, yes,
He's the man of the moment.
Thank you,
Thank
Anya.
you, and
Lovely.
well done again.
No problem.
Well, finally, I've caught up with the man of the evening, Cavan McDermott. You've had a wonderful evening, Cavan.
Wonderful evening, great.
And you got a little bit emotional as well.
Well,
That's what it's like to be back
that's
home,
what it's
isn't
like
it?
to be back home. Do you want me to sing? No, go on. No, I did get a bit emotional. The last couple of lines of the my only kin are all the rest in Killigary,
No.
But
Before you go any further, can I just read this out? A factory worker, a musician, a soldier, an airman, a firefighter, which you were for most of your life, and you were a driving instructor, a heavy goods instructor, and you were a film extra. And now you are an author.
yes, how about that?
Where do you go from here?
And I look back on a passage in the book there when the master told me He called me up to the front and he said, "You're a bad boy, a waster, and a lead swinger." He said, "If you don't, you may think this is Duffy Circus, but it's far from Duffy Circus. And if you don't pull your socks up, you'll end up your days propping up Black's Corner House at the top of Bridge Street, with the hair growing through your cap and the stub of a dudeen in your gob."
Well, he was wrong. He was wrong. No, but I'd like to say, Kevin, that fantastic for you. I don't think you realise the work you've done here, because you've written a social history of Cavan. I flicked through your book this evening. You've touched on religion, maybe a bit of politics, and the social history of Cavan at the time, like what people had to live with. And even there, I can see the influence the Catholic Church had on people, and the power the priests had in the school. And indeed, least we forget how cruel they were in the schools. You talked about the leather strap tonight. But that's true, it's authentic, that's a history that's there, and you've written it there, and fair play to you.
Which is great, because you read little snippets of that sort of thing, but it ends there. Well, I went through my life and I put down what I saw. Everything was hard. There was, sometimes nothing to eat in the house. And
it was hard, and as you said, you put tissues in the back of the book. But here you are today, you're 87 years of age, you're a great man, you've done all these things, and life is good.
Oh yeah, life is very good for me, and I love writing, and I have a good brain, I have a good memory, great memory, and when we started this in COVID, when COVID hit, I started writing and putting my stories together. I had lots of stories from past books and past items that I wrote, and I put them all in the book. And then my poor wife died. She died on that year, and after she died, I got used then to to living on my own. Well, I have one son with me, but to cover my grief, I banged on the typewriter and wrote every word, and then my other son done all the layout of the book for me, and between the two of us we did everything but print it. We paid the printer.
Absolutely. So I'd say you're a happy man this evening.
I'm very, very happy, and I have
You got a standing ovation as well.
I know.
That's no mean thing.
Yeah. Last time I got a standing ovation was in the courthouse when I got away with the crime. But no, it was lovely. Okay,
so you're a man, and I call you a man of the day. You've done everything, you've achieved everything. I called out your list of achievements there, and I'm sure there are many more. Now, in this day, in modern day, when things are very different, what would you say to young people out there if they said, what's the secret of a happy, fulfilled life?
Be glad to be alive. Look at what nature has to offer you. When people take their own lives, I think, why? Maybe they were so mixed up they did it. But I was, where I live in Exford, I was on quite a number of juries, inquest juries, and the number of people who took their own lives, young people, I thought, my God, there's so much to live for, But probably, in my young life, it was a survival time all the time. We didn't have time to worry about that.
That's the difference, isn't it?
Survival.
Yeah.
And of course, rationing and all sorts of things. Yeah. And you were wondering where the next meal was coming from, that type of thing.
Survival.
So we didn't have time to think about life, really. But, when I sit and watch the seasons change, I think, my God, isn't it wonderful to be alive? Mind you, I'm happy enough. I'm a pensioner, nice little pension and that, and it keeps me very happy. Play a little bit of music. What more can a man ask?
And write a book. And the name of your book is A Legacy of Memories. It is, of course, your second book.
It is, yeah. I wrote one before called The Time of the Corncrake.
The Time of the Corncrake.
Some of those stories that are in there were in The Time of the Corncrake, but a shortened version. This time it's gone the whole hog. There's 49 memories in there written as a story. And there's also Cavanese, which is a word I made up, of all the Cavan expressions I ever remember.
Very good.
And then there's the town as I remembered, all the businesses and shops and that I remembered. And there's very few of them left, like Foxes and that, that's still there.
Yeah.
But
Connolly Brothers is there 100 years.
There. Yeah, and Matt Faye's started there when the year I was born.
Yeah. Very good.
everything else has changed, you know.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Yours is a history that's not digital. It's not written down anywhere. It comes from your memory, and now it's in this
sort
book.
of written down in bits and pieces.
Yeah.
You know, but
So
not all
now,
together.
if anybody wants to get your book, we have told them your book will be in the Candlelight Bookshop
right.
in Main Street,
In
Cavan
Main Street,
Town.
Cavan Town.
€20 for that.
And
Well, yeah.
hopefully my son Ronan will put it online. He'll get it online. He'll be
Great
able to
stuff.
buy it online.
Well, what can I say? Continued good health
Thank
to
you.
you. Thank you for your stories. Thank you for your amazing stories on the Old Irish Cavan photos on Facebook, where the idea of the book started. And well done, and thank you.
And I mean, Kevin read a book. Kevin, I enjoyed your story. Put it down.
And you did.
And I did.
Yeah.
And that's how the book was born.
Okay, well done. Thank you to
I'm delighted to meet you.
and thank you to everybody,
thank
to you from everybody in Cavan.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, Kevin, can we have you up here? Have you all been... Give a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. This man is full of energy, but 1 minute, okay? We're going to start off, Kevin's going to start off with a selection of lovely waltzes, beautiful waltzes. If you find a bit of room there, if you feel like dancing. So, ladies and gentlemen, the man at the moment, Mr. Kevin McDermott. Yay!
Thank you very much.
And then we have a few reels and jigs after this, so a few waltzes first of all.
This is a selection of Cavan waltzes.
Cavan waltzes. Cavan song. It's all about Cavan.
Yeah. Right, I'm going to play.
So we have a few jigs.
A
Cavan.
few jigs.
A few jigs. If you,
G&D.
we might even clear the floor. Even maybe the Siege of Venice. Yeah.
Well, the sheet men will be more easy, but anyway,
Oh.
a few jigs.
Few jigs. Tap your hands, stop your feet, rattle your old dentures if you feel like it. Here we go.
Right, a few jigs.
Clap your hands, here we go. From the house away to the dust.
And here's a few, to finish this little set here, here's a few Wexford marches.
I noticed it said Wexford.
Thank you very much.
Wasn't that simple?
I'm going to finish off with a little thing on the harmonica by special request from a gentleman down there. James, where's my son? I think he has my harmonica.
Oh, the harmonica, yeah.
Yeah, it's in his coat. Right, I'll just raise this a bit because I can stand
He
up.
plays harmonica, he plays trumpet, he plays trombone.
I play bingo every Thursday night.
He plays bingo.
Ah, yeah, no, never win. Never win the thing.
Here's the harmonica.
Oh, God. After this, I'm going home. I just want to get the flies out of this. Oh, God. Don't know where it was last.
This is very small. Just hold it up so the people see the size of this, Kevin. Just hold up the harmonica.
How dare you?
Sorry,
Oh, the harmonica!
The harmonica, of course.
You had me worried there. You know, it's that size.
It's that
Anyway,
size, yeah.
We all love the old cowboy pictures. And in every cowboy picture I've ever, there'll always be the old harmonica in the background. And I'm going to play a few tunes from a couple of good cowboy pictures.
Cowboy films. So
Yeah.
imagine, picture the cowboy movies.
Yeah, and anyway, here we go. You recognise both, no. If I can keep my teeth in for this bloody thing. And now my next trick.
Does anyone know the name of the film or the cowboy movie? What was the name of that?
The first one is
Was
Across the
it-
Wild Missouri. And it was also used
Shenandoah, but the last piece
Shenandoah.
was
It was
Farnham.
also used in the film Shenandoah, and it was used in the film Across the Wild Missouri. And the second one, of course, is The Magnificent Seven.
Magnificent Seven, that was it, yeah.
And I'm going to finish on the harmonica with an Irish air. The harmonica is a beautiful thing for Irish slow airs, and I'm going to play on cooling. I turn around to tell him with the key, I have no option, it's in G. Thank you very much.
Lovely. They're very talented.
Am I?
An author. It's going to be a big seller. Many copies went today. 1,000 copies went today. There's another 1,000 on our
He's an awful liar on that. And my next trick is to have a pint of beer. Thank you all very much.
So there you have it. A wonderful evening here in the Farnham Arms Hotel in Cavan at the launch at A Legacy of Memories, a fantastic book written by Cavan McDermott. And if you want to get it, it's in the Candlelight Bookshop in Cavan Town. Good evening here from the Farnham Arms and Cavan Hotel, and thank you for watching Irish Web TV.